get the grand announcement there. But that way, those who are not with us will be able to listen in on the recording that we make available. Sandy and Martin, tell us about how things are going with your particular group.
Well, I think we're like Suzanne. We either get off topic or I don't know whether what we say corresponds to what we're going to learn from you. I look at this as an addition, and not whether we talked about the right thing. We have let's see, 4 in our group. 4 in our group. Pat McMahon and Ron Word teaches it, but who's Brian Schwartz?
Linda Prince.
And Linda Prince. There's 5 of us. And we're all really enjoying these new definitions and the videos and thinking about the story as a whole and already thinking ahead, oh, that's how this fits in. And I really like his approach.
I do too. And it's not so bad that he's pretty good looking and easy to listen to.
We're not too old to notice, are we?
That's right.
No, I have appreciated very much Alan Story's videos. He's very, very perceptive and also very succinct, able to make a point in, frankly, just a few words, and I greatly admire that. It's a gift I do not have, and so I've really appreciated those aspects. Dan Erlander, the author of Manna and Mercy, I knew him many years back, around the time that he was writing this, and I've always appreciated his material. He's written a lot of things that when I was in parish ministry, I made use of a lot of his materials. He had a book very similar to this, dealing with baptism, that I thought was just really phenomenal. And
Is he a Lutheran pastor?
Yes. At the time that I knew him, he was one of the Lutheran campus pastors at Pacific Lutheran University, near Tacoma, Washington, and they had a very gifted team there, and there were three campus pastors there. One went on to become bishop of the Pacific Northwest Synod for the ELCA. Susan Briel, another one, continued to be a campus pastor there for a long time. And Dan had his.
I think that was your boyfriend? I think that was your boyfriend? What was his name? Pacific.
The phone call is mine.
No.
But very gifted group of people, and I've always been appreciative of his ministry. There was another member of or a member of another journey group that had written me this past week, and she was struck by a reference on page 8 in this week's lesson that was quoting Chief Seattle, and she had looked in the end note for the book and saw that it was that a copy of Chief Seattle's speech was available through the bookstore at Holden Village in Chelan, Washington. And she had taken it upon herself to do an online search and was able to come up with that material. And this book exudes Holden Village. Holden Village is it was an old mining camp up in the mountains. The only way you can reach there is to catch a boat and ride for a couple hours up the lake on the boat. And then once you land, you go up this really horrible gravel road, very winding road up the side of a mountain until you get to this old mining camp. And the previous owner of the camp had given the camp to a group of Lutherans for use as a retreat and conference center. And the recipients of that gift described themselves as described Lutherans as God's most uncreative people, and to have the gift of this beautiful camp up in the mountains for conference and retreat ministries was just a really great kind of thing. Dan Erlander spent a lot of time there, and I rather suspect that this book was probably written at Holden Village. I'd almost be willing to bet hard cash on that, because the book is really just filled with a lot of the whole spirit of Holden Village, and a lot of environmental awareness, and the sense of storytelling that is part of this book. It just really fits very nicely with what Holden Village was all about.
So how does it work? He and this man from South Africa, how does he joining this?
Alan Story learned about this material much later. The book itself was copyrighted in 1992. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's an ancient book by this point. And the book had, well, if you look at the end notes, you'll see that all of the bibliography stuff is terribly out of date. And yet, and the thing has never been updated, never added online resources at all, and so that can be a little frustrating. But Alan's story, in terms of these videos, I think the videos are from about 10 years ago, so that's 20 years after the book was originally written. As far as I know, Alan's story just stumbled on it, and then had contacted Dan Erlander, and had decided that he wanted to use that, and got permission from Erlander to be making that connection. So the two of them were not collaborating in the book itself. That was Erlander's work all on his own.
That is so interesting that it's like two people were, I mean, in touch with the same spirit, words, thoughts. And also the fact that you said it hasn't been updated, but all of those, the references are still so relevant. It's like a classic work that never goes out of.
That's a great point. I think you're absolutely right about that. The other astonishing thing is that Alan's story is from South Africa,
Right.
and a Methodist from South Africa, and that that the two of them from rather different parts of the world would end up being able to provide something that those of us somewhere in the middle are able to make use of right now, I think is really quite astonishing.
Yeah.
I was very pleased when I learned that Reverend Grace had been using this book with our vestry. They had been studying this during the last year, and when I came on staff, I was really quite intrigued by that. I'd known about the book before, and thought, hey, this is a great thing. I had never heard of the videos, but Reverend Grace knew of those things. She had been at a workshop with Alan Story and had learned about the materials that way. And so once I had a chance to see what they were doing, yes, that's something that I felt would be very, very good for us to be using here.
So how, with the book, who put the videos together with the book? And
that was all Alan Story's.
It's Alan Story's work now. The book,
The book continues to be Dan Erlander's, but
right. The lesson plans come from Alan then.
Well, the lesson plans come from me.
Right.
But no, there are no lesson plans that have everything connected. I simply have a list of these videos,
Okay.
and they're more or less in following the plan of the book. In another, well, not this coming week, but the following week, you're going to see that there are more stretches in terms of the connections. But for the most part, Alan was just dealing with videos that and taking insights from the book that he felt would be a great way of trying to convey in a different medium the message of the book.
So did he publish his videos separately?
Yes.
So it's a separate, oh, that is so interesting.
Augsburg Fortress Publishing Company has taken over the publication of the materials, and it has now put together a set of leadership guides that really do a very different type of thing than what we're doing. It's their materials, and they have these materials set for multiple age groups. They've got some that are designed for confirmation students.
So cool.
I mean, it's they've got a great range of things. They've also put out board books using a lot of these materials for very young children. So it's become kind of an industry of its own.
That is interesting. Maybe something I will look up and use with my grandchildren.
Yep. Yeah, through Augsburg Fortress Press. If you go online, you can see the materials there. So. Well, I'm wondering if there were particular issues from this past week's session, or from earlier, if you wish, but anything that you wanted to be digging into a little more in depth, we can head in whatever direction you'd like to be going.
Any questions?
I didn't find any particular point that I really was concerned about or didn't understand, but I love the definition of work as the dignified activity of helping God meet the needs of all people. It
Yes.
reminded me of that definition. Is it Brueggemann's? I don't think it's Brueggemann's, maybe Buechner's, where our what?
Work is love made visible.
No, where our vocation is where our passion meets the needs of the world.
Yes, I think that is Brueggemann.
And that, to me, including that dignified, that I just love that definition of the dignified activity. And the other one Martin was just saying was where justice is, you say,
Where work is love made visible.
Mhm.
Even more, even simpler. Work is love made visible.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's such an important kind of thing in our society, in which a lot of times work becomes kind of the grind. It's the dumb stuff you got to do in order to survive, and yet the both of those definitions are really picking up on work as an essential part of our partnership with God. That's how the benefits of God are shared with a wider group of people. That's where much of the work of God gets done. And I just think that's such a tremendously important observation to be making. There's,
in my case, I think about my dad, who just hated his job.
Mhm.
He worked in a factory and he just wanted to work to get out of the factory and go to his farm and work with the horses and do something else.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of people, like even Paul said, he had to make tents so he could do the work that he really wanted to do.
Right.
But I think about if we had a society that looked at work, all kinds of work, as helping God, whether it's work that it isn't the greatest thing that you love, but you are doing something good.
Mhm.
My dad was making oil pipes, that was something good,
Mhm.
but he hated it. But I don't think he ever looked at it as a sense of a partnership, of
Mhm.
doing something dignified
Mhm.
that was helping others, even though it wasn't to his liking. And if you think of it in that way, you can think of it as suffering for others.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so often being dignified is a term that has often been reserved for those who weren't working. Okay, being dignified are for the elite who are above it all, and you function with dignity and as the contrast to the working person. And this is just a wonderful switch, I think, to help underscore this notion of partnership that has been such a major part of this book. I'd like to pick up another aspect of that coming from the other end. In this chapter, in that set of charts that are present in the book, the last chart dealing with the gift of Sabbath. And Sabbath, okay, stepping back from work, and at one, I don't recall whether it was in, I think it was probably in one of Alan's, or in Alan's video, he talked about Sabbath being the opportunity to enjoy being enjoyed by God. When I,
Isn't that hard to really think of God enjoying you, though?
Yeah.
well, it has been, and yet I think it's central. It's really central to the whole project that this book is trying to emphasize, that God partners with humanity because God enjoys humanity. And the whole notion of the glory of God is the human fully alive. That is really picking up an essential connection that is present between God and humanity. And
But I'm always thinking about how I fall short, how he must be disappointed.
and I think God is probably just saying, boy, love that Sandy.
Oh.
You wouldn't believe what she just did.
Oh, I wish I could.
You know, it's funny how we think a lot of times we want to please God, but I don't know about you, but me, I think I fall short. It's like it's a split there because I never think of then God is pleased. I just think I have to please God.
Right, right.
Of course, if you're going to please him, he obviously could be pleased. I don't know why I never disconnected from that.
The whole emphasis in Genesis chapter 1 of God's statement, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's very good. I mean, this is God applauding the creation. I mean, it's God as recipient of what is occurring within the created world, and its immense appreciation that's there. The whole emphasis that that the created world is very good is really the starting point for everything that's in this series, both the videos and the book. And yet, I think so often within Christianity, we start with Genesis chapter 3, and we focus on the shortcomings. We focus on what isn't going well. We focus on the distance between ourselves and God, without I think properly appreciating that God's already on our side right from the very beginning, and that God is willing to go with wherever humans happen to go with things, even when the direction that humans go is not particularly beneficial. One of the striking things in what's often called the Yahwist strand of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible is that God is just incredibly patient in the whole process. That when humans screw up, God has a plan B. And when humans screw up plan B, God has another plan B, or plan C, if you will. And God keeps responding in love to whatever it is that humans are doing. And the emphasis that Erlander is making is that the whole process of relationship between God and humanity is one of partnership all the way through. When one partner screws up, okay, it's not a matter of abandonment. It's a matter of, okay, what are we going to do with this now? How can we bring good out of this situation? And when that has a problem, how can we bring good out of this? And so in every situation in life, it's always a matter of trying to move toward God's creative and redemptive goals in the process. That doesn't change at all. But the particular path that we use for getting there is something that we humans provide. Sometimes we don't provide it very well. Other times, hey, we've got some rather positive things. But whatever it is that we do, it's still in a partnership with God. God loves his creation that much to make that all come together. I think a lot of time, going back to the notion of Sabbath, I think for me, the notion of Sabbath, of really just stopping, not doing something, that's perhaps one of the hardest things for me. I as my mother and my father before me were, we've got to be doing something all the time. And in that process of doing something all the time, we miss the gift of Sabbath. And I think the closest I've ever come to really having a glimpse of what Sabbath could be have been in times when I've been in Israel. Jerusalem is normally a very busy, very noisy city. And the experience of Shabbat, Sabbath, was something that I really wasn't prepared for when I was there. Because on Shabbat, there's this deafening silence. I mean, you don't hear traffic. And I have a picture of myself lying in the middle of Jaffa Road, one of the busiest streets in Jerusalem. That's normally just bumper to bumper and people speeding along. I'm lying in the middle of the street, and the picture shows all the way down the street, and you don't see a car anywhere. That ability to just go out walking on Shabbat and encounter other people just walking, and to be able to greet them with the traditional Sabbath greeting, Shabbat Shalom, Sabbath peace. That was just such a relaxing kind of experience that was really different than anything that I've ever had. And what I like about the emphasis in the book on Sabbath as a gift. I think I certainly need, and I think probably most of us need, the gift of doing nothing. In fact, I think there's yes, and the illustration the two prairie dogs who do the commentary on a lot of things. This is on the top of page 9. One prairie dog says, "What's happening?" The other says, "Nothing." Yes, that's exactly what a key element that I think is missing in life, and or at least it's missing in my life, and I appreciate the reminder that the material provides about that.
I think Sabbath is, am I muted? No.
Oh, you're okay.
I think Sabbath is hard in our society that is so transitions so much. When I was a child, Sunday was the time you visited your grandparents. You sat in the lawn or on the porch, and we, of course, all the kids, we complained we couldn't play cards, we couldn't do this. But I look back at those as some of my most cherished memories of my life. Those special times of sitting in the yard with the neighbors coming by and stopping and just sitting in the yard, just talking. No drinks, no food. Was no one felt the need to prepare anything. But families now are so, I haven't lived within hundreds of miles of my family since I left for college. And it's really difficult. And I think that's why it's so special, the St. Thomas community to us, because they are truly our family that we don't have. And other people have family here and it's still their family, but it's really special to us to have, for our children to have intergenerational activities and to be with older people and who cherish them and love them. It was very special for us. But that day, there were no stores were open, nothing. And it really was quite a nice time. Now Sabbath is really ruined by children's sports. The kids, I don't know what you do as a parent. The kids are, if you don't play on the soccer on Sunday, you don't get on the team.
Right.
So it's really tough choices.
Yeah, I think, this is perhaps where we need to do our own plan B of finding,
A time.
Yes, finding a time, and treating Sabbath as a principle, which both the book and Alan's story mentioned. Treat Sabbath as a principle to be used, and maybe within Christian community, hey, we haven't used Sabbath on Saturday for a long time, and frankly, in the tradition of the Christian tradition of observing Sunday as basically a miniature Easter festival, a lot of the Sabbath restrictions were not originally used within Christianity to apply to Sunday. That became more common around the time of the Protestant Reformation. And I think being able to loosen things from a specific day to, okay, what's going to be our time, to step back from things, to enjoy one another, to enjoy just being, to enjoy being enjoyed. I think we're on the right track if we start looking for those moments, those occasions when we can do that, even if for each of us it ends up being in a different time, a different kind of place, etc.
Denny,
Yes.
one of the things coming up this week is that the Sabbath is also the time for sharing. And the idea being that they gathered manna on Saturday, they had enough for everybody for Sunday, and then they shared it. And it's kind of critical in the lessons of this week, in that was one of the ways that the Israelites could show that they share with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sharing was built into the system. Okay, you couldn't get through a week without doing that sharing. And the idea that these practices of the people of Israel really had some strong insights that can and should be put into practice in other ways. I think that's very important. But yeah, the sharing, that's hugely important. There are other things that you're interested in dealing with. Oops, you're muted, Sandy.
Does it have to be about this lesson?
No, not at all. No.
Okay. From our last series that we studied, I can't remember the name of it, but the first journey group,
Mhm.
I was left hanging on the one when you described Jesus, who Jesus was as
Mhm.
God-man, and that God did not die on the cross. And I would just like you to, I understand that, but I'd like you to open it up a little more for me.
That's going back to the second session. You got hung up really early there.
Yes.
And that's okay. One of the, just for Suzanne's.
It was who is Jesus was the topic.
Yes.
Who is Jesus?
Our whole series of journey groups was looking at a whole series of kind of perennial questions that are involved in terms of Christian theology and Christian life. And one of the things that I had objected to in the series was the fact that it started, right off the bat with the first couple sessions with real substance. We're dealing with Jesus materials, and it was dealing with Jesus, in which, okay, if you have the problem of Jesus solved, then everything else just flows from that. And there really is no basis for concern or anything. Everything is just an unfolding of answers that basically got put together in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th centuries. And I object to that particular way of looking at things. In particular, the the particular material we were using wanted to talk about Jesus as God, as just a flat statement, and that settles everything. And my discomfort is that the vast majority of people that I work with, the people who are outside the church, the people who are involved in other religious traditions, if that's the starting point, there is no further point, because nobody else can make the haziest bit of sense out of that statement. And so, I was dragging my heels, digging my heels in at that point, and saying, hey, there is absolutely a very important way in which we as Christians, when we look at Jesus, yes, we say God. That's how we understand what God is like. But if you simply equate Jesus, God, same thing, that raises more questions about what's going on outside of Palestine. If the entirety of God is trapped within the confines of Jesus of Nazareth, walking around Galilee. And for most people, there simply is nothing more that can happen after that. And I would have been much more happy if we had a chance to talk about initially Jesus' message and how people encountered God through Jesus, and then talk about how Christian theology developed and made a number of statements that make sort of good sense within a particular philosophical framework. But frankly, a lot of that philosophical framework has long since gone as well. And my sense was that there are so many people who need what Jesus reveals about God, that we're simply going to be shut off from being able to see that, to be able to go any further with that. And the one thing I didn't want to do is to have us as a group of Christians patting ourselves on the back about our language when we aren't paying attention to the real problems that people have of encountering that. One of the things that I like about the Manna and Mercy series is that it's really providing us with a way of seeing reality, which is going to, in the later chapters of this material, is going to crystallize, particularly in the teachings and the actions of Jesus, and help us see what Jesus was doing within the big project of God mending the universe. And that just opens up all sorts of things in which I can find a place for myself. I can deal with my Muslim friends and my Jewish friends and my Hindu friends, and there's a whole lot of stuff that we can see and we can share about what God is doing in the world in that situation, and they can applaud and appreciate Jesus in a way that they never, ever, ever would be if the first thing that we say is, you have to say, Jesus is God, end of discussion. And that's really what was behind my concern. I certainly can understand that the approach that I was taking at that point is something that can be hard to deal with in a situation where we're accustomed to a particular kind of language. And yes, there are certain things that we automatically say, yes, that's it. But I was just trying to kind of break the circuit on that to make something else be possible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. So would you say that Jesus died on the cross, but not God?
I would say that Jesus died on the cross. I would say that, metaphorically speaking, God is thoroughly involved in Jesus' pain, suffering, agony on the cross. If I say God died on the cross, there is no next step.
Right.
There is nothing after that. Because if God is truly dead, we're all goners. And Christians use that language, but they use it metaphorically, because they really don't think God is dead. They think that God goes on. It's inconceivable that God does not go on. And that's the key thing that I would see with that.
So would you describe, wait a second. Would you describe Jesus as God-man, and the man died?
No, that's not the approach that I would take, because it tries putting everything into the contours of the body of Jesus and describing it in that way. My way of talking about that and is to talk about Jesus being the expression of God and humanity in fullest, closest harmony, the closest possible harmony. The interrelationship is the ultimate at that point. We can't think of anything greater than that, because when we, anything that we want to say about God, we're looking at that through the figure of Jesus. We're saying that's what being God is about. And so I will put things in terms of the relationship rather than something that the Council of Chalcedon, 5th century, was wrestling with precisely this. And it ended up, as most of the creeds do, it ends up by talking about where it's not going to go. Okay, it says we're not going to go there, but it doesn't have a nice answer. And thus, one of the things that the Council of Chalcedon did was to say, you cannot think of Jesus as one who has a toggle switch, who toggles back and forth between functioning as God now, but functioning as human at another point. No, the whole point of talking about Jesus is that everything he does is in full communication, communion, relationship with God. God fills Jesus. He is a God-filled human being. And you can't say, oh, this part of Jesus is God, this part is human. When Jesus does miracles, he does that as a human and as an expression of God. When Jesus weeps at the tomb of Lazarus, he does that as a human. He does that as one expressing exactly God's agony over someone God cares about, someone God loves. And, the Council of Chalcedon insists that things are not confused. They're not so mixed together, and that you can't, that they become a third kind of thing. No, you keep them distinct, but they're in constant relationship. They're in constant communication with one another. And yeah, Jesus is that kind of person. It's impossible for us to use Jesus as a model if he is not fully human. He has no advantages over you and me, none whatsoever in terms of his abilities. He is a human being, and that human being expresses what is present when God is fully expressed through God's creation. And the language of God, man that has been used, I think was trying to get at that kind of thing. But for most people that I've met, to speak of Jesus as the God man, okay, they want to split him down the middle. This is the God part, this is the human part, and somehow they're I don't know what to do with that. But I do understand relationship. I do understand that what Jesus was doing is what he called all of us to be doing. And what God is able to make possible for all of us. I just think we end up doing what occurred in the church restrooms at the first at the parish where I did my internship when I was in seminary. There was the men's restroom, there was the women's restroom, there was the clergy restroom.
Really?
And there's God, there's humanity, there's Jesus. No. Jesus uses our restroom.
Sandra, you're muted.
I was saying, thank you, Jenny. This has been very helpful to me. And I hope, Suzanne, we didn't go off on too much of a tangent.
Oh, no, I always enjoy it. And, everything I hear, I turn around and do crazy things. Like you said, me start looking into, maybe you'll mention one person that I will dive into. Who was that real person really? What did they do in their life? I learned this, or that journey here. Well, I got to learn more about that journey. Or I even looked up, I was going to make manna and bring it to one of my classes till I saw the recipe and decided I didn't think I liked it that much.
They didn't either.
The word manna in Hebrew is actually, it's actually 2 words, and it's a question, manhu, which means, what is it? And my daughter, when she was young, she'd come to the dinner table and she'd say, what is it?
Manna.
We'd say
Hey,
manna. It's dinner.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you,
Well-
Denny.
Thank you so much for being part of things, and enjoy your time out west. That's wonderful, and thank you for taking time to join us down here in the southeast.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Take care. Good to see you, Suzanne. Bye now.
Thank you so much.